So let me know when you're ready. I think we all set to go. Thank you for being here. This is going to be a quick overview of the AI landscape right now. Result of just exploring the ecosystem and figuring out what's happening lately. And just to get started, let's get ready for this. And the first thing I wanted to bring in is a new concept or a new paradigm that has been taking over the AI landscape, which are AI agents. And these AI agents, you can imagine that they are used for solving different types of tasks. And they use decision making through the ability of a language model, like, for example, ChatGPT. And it's also provided with tools. So, in order to create a system that's able to resolve these problems through execution and saying what's the solution first and then solving it. So if you remember Clippy, sure, it would ask you, hey, would you like me to do this? And then you would start to accept their help. This is like a very more capable Clippy that's also using ChatGPT as its engine behind. So with that started, this is what an agent would look like today. This is Super AGI. It's one of the agents examples that I'm going to show you guys. And as you can see, you have a list of tasks. And there's a lot of things going on, but we should be able to break them down. You have different types of agents and a history. So here are the list of agents that are currently out in the market that I'm aware of. We have Lang Chain and Autogpt as agents that are very modifiable, but they don't have a user interface. And these three examples are very good for starters, and it's great because it does have a user interface, but it's not modifiable. So I just want to run here with a quick demo. And we're going to see Agent GPT first, and we're just going to give it a name, like Dear Researcher. And we're going to ask it for a goal that it's look into what is dr.tech and explain it in a file. Let's see if it has file system access. I think it doesn't, but let's see what it tries to do. And in the tools, I can check what type of tools it's able to utilize. So remember that a LLM will be connected to tools in order to make this agent work. So I don't want to generate images. I don't want to generate code, but I do want it to use Google search. So I'm going to close that tools that is set up, and I'm going to deploy the agent. So if you can read here, it's going to start thinking, right? And it's going to have a goal to look into what DRTech is and explain it in a file. Although there's a typo here, it's still going to be able to pick it up. And it's, as you can see, looking into the search engine for what DRTech is. It's adding a task to visit the top research. And it keeps going. And as you can see, it has an output already. And it says the org is a full stack Web3 development collective. So it has it, right? Here on the right, you can see the list of tasks that it's executing. And you can see that it's thinking. Market, opportunities. And the AI, this one's going to be a bit more complex. So in this case, for God mode, difference is that we're just going to get asked for a list of goals that we should add. So I'm just going to add them, but it's not mentioning dear.tech. So the reason why I take time to write these is because this is really going to affect how the LLM is going to browse things and how it's going to do things. So the first goal that I'm giving it is to research dr.tech, and I can be even more explicit and just tell it HTTP so that it knows it's a website. And it's going to start thinking. In this case, we have a different type of UI. We have, again, the list of tasks failed to fetch. So demo error. Let's see if it takes some time to get there. And in the meantime, we can see Agent GPT that has finished running. So it had 5 loops and it shut down. The reason why it shut down is because this is again like a beta version and it's very limited. You should be able to, through the settings, add like your OpenAI API key to get more tasks run. But essentially, this would allow you to see like what AutoGPT should be able to do just to get started with a very limited list of tools. Same with God mode. Although we don't see the example today, here it is. We can see the example today, and this one's a bit more explicit when it tells you what it's going to do. It's going to use the command Google to query the org doc. And you can approve or not this plan, or you can give it some feedback to make it change. And this is a lot more like what AutoGPT looks like in its actual flow. And the difference, Agent GPT is being more streamlined. You're not able to make that human feedback awareness rather than what you can do in God mode. So if we give it a few seconds, we should get a response. But I just wanted to make a moment here to see if everyone's right now catching up with what agents are before we move ahead into an AutoGPT overview. And that might help go into more detail, but in general, are like agents sort of understood or covered, or if you have any questions. I think someone can raise their hands if you want to ask a question. And if not, I think we can continue to. Or you can just send a question in the chat, and I'll be looking for those. So yeah, getting back to agents and what types of agents we have available. Already saw GuckNode and Agent GPT. Super AGI is this one right here. So it's a more complete UI, I would say, and it's very new. I haven't yet had the chance to try it out. But it's looking very promising. And also the good thing is that it's open source. So yeah, with that in mind, we can also talk about Autogpt and Lang Chain agents, which are now very modifiable. So you have the entire code that you should be able to add commands, change how they interact, add new functionalities, and so on. So yeah, with that in mind, we can just go into a quick overview of what AutoGPT is and some of its examples. So also for history and like context, AutoGPT started like as a voice chat with some people that were actually not expecting to launch a product, but one member was able to develop this new agent sort of framework, and very spontaneously it got a lot of traction in the internet, and then it received 30,000 stars in GitHub, which really means that it's in the top 50 repositories in the entire GitHub space, and it got it within 3 weeks or 5 weeks. So it's really one of the most traction that any project has seen on GitHub, and it's still growing. It has its growing pains, and I'm going to just go briefly and telling you more about how it works and what's happening in the ecosystem. So AutoGPT has plugins, which essentially allow you to add new functionality on the go. And this could mean, for example, like Twitter integration, or it could mean, for example, crypto integration, so that I can swap ETH or like go into your Binance account and do something there. Plugins are developed through Python, and that allows you to just give it any functionality that you could do with Python and then create it as a command. Just as we were seeing in God mode, that you have different commands and you can approve them or deny them, you're essentially creating a new type of command through plugins. And you can also do other stuff like adding memory, like changing the way it operates entirely, just by using the different handlers that the plugins allow you to use. And what's happened? So like the thing is that AutoGPT, as I mentioned, grew up very spontaneously. There wasn't that much organization in how it was set up. However, it was able to grow into hundreds of contributors. I think they have like around 300 contributors already. That was the good thing, but the bad part was that sadly the code base was entirely messed up because there was no lead engineering team that was assigning people to different tasks and like development standards. Like, how are we going to write the code? Are we going to use classes? Or are we going to use like functional programming? So that led the entire project to stagnate when it came to pull requests because the architecture was just too complex to get anyone into working with it. So now Autogpt is going through a re-architecture process where they're separating the concerns of Autogpt into different modules that should allow you to dig into the code more easily and add more functionality to it. So yeah, I mean, that's what the architecture implies. So the Autogpt that we have right now, which was the engine for GPT, it was also the engine for God mode, is being completely re-architectured, and they're also going to build a UI for it eventually. However, this is still not something that we should be able to see in the upcoming month, more into the upcoming 3 months or something. So I want you to remember that these technologies that I'm showing you today are not ready for mass adoption, but they are getting to a point where they will be. So within a couple of months, if you stay aware and, looking into the ecosystem, you might find some really good opportunity into, how to use a new tool or how to build a new tool in this market. So with that in mind, how we have the change of the entire protocol for Autogpt, we also have challenges, which are the way for you to test if Autogpt is able to achieve something that it should achieve, or if it's failing at that. So we're essentially challenging Autogpt to complete a specific problem. That specific problem could be something that the LLM was not trained to do. For example, if you want to know the revenue of Tesla in the past year, the LLM was trained with data up until 2021, so it won't know anything about 2022. Therefore, if you give it the Google command, then Autogpt should be able to know the results of that Tesla economic status from last year by looking through Google. And those challenges just allow you to do that, right? So can Autogpt achieve this or not, and give you a deterministic result of whether it can do it or not. And this allows you to backtrace so that if you make a change and Autogpt is now performing worse in one specific challenge, then it means that that change should not be merged into the core of Autogpt. A driving force for updating Autogpt to the latest technology available. And the reading group is essentially a meeting that happens every 2 days, and it's really active, where the Autogpt team is reading the newest research papers that come out in the field of AI. So they are not only the most used framework for agents, but they're also starting to organize without being paid, actually. It's just like community oriented, to research into the most latest trends and then go into that through our research and development pipeline that they're starting to create. So I would keep an eye on Autogpt for the next couple of months, see where it's going, and probably try to experiment with it. Even right now, it should be a couple of simple tasks. And yeah, I mean, it's very interesting that you have an LLM with access to your file system, with access to the terminal, and so on. Here's an example of a Planner plugin, which I was able to build for Autogpt, which is essentially solving a problem that Autogpt has right now, where Autogpt just thinks of something that it wants to do and then it executes it. So it's not able to break it down into specific tasks like a human would do, right? If I want to go to the market, I don't need to just buy the milk, right? I want to go to the, leave the door, go to the place, look for the milk, put it in the cart, and so on, and finish it. So thinking of solutions should be divided into different steps. So I was able to develop this plugin that allows Autogpt to use the LLM to plan its steps and know how far ahead it went into the completion of these different tasks. And this is just one approach, right? So there are several other approaches that you can take to make the Autogpt or your agent be more aware of planning and where it should be going towards. And yeah, so I would like to just check the chat very briefly if there are any questions before we get ahead into the next part. How do you teach GPT-4 that you have the skills to do? So specifically for plugins, it's very easy. It's just like adding a zip file to where it's set up. You have to essentially tell it. So how it works is in detail, right? You first create a plugin and you add it to the plugin folder, and then you're able to execute it. And you should know the different commands that you included. So if we go to this specific example, you add the different commands in a script like this. You define a command, for example. If I want to check a plan, I will add the command, and then I would tell it what the command is going to do in a function that I imported up here. And defines the different file, but that's going to add new functionality to GPT-4. And this is one abstraction of it. This is like the simplest way to see it. The other way to see it is that you can have a prompt where you tell GPT-4, hey, you are an autonomous agent and you have these different commands. So please only respond with the appropriate command in this specified format. So like we saw in .mode, this example is what you would ask it to respond, and then you would have like a separate execution that would take in this command name and this argument to execute a functionality. So there are two ways. One is the plugins, which is like the most streamlined way, and then the other one is going through the core and adding a command sort of like this and giving it a name and an argument that you should take. It can also have like no argument. For example, if you want to have like current date time, you would need an argument for that. It's always going to be current date. Is it possible to train specific models to make regardless of those tracks? So yeah, I think we can talk about that. Let me pick up here the graph here, and I'll just briefly mention something. So we have two different type of models. We have open models and we have closed source models. For closed source models, we have GPT, specifically GPT-3 and 3.5 and 3.5 and GPT-4, which allow you to just chat with them. They are pre-trained. You cannot fine-tune them. However, there are some models like Llama, Alpaca, I think Flan you can also fine-tune, but these are different type of models, and they require, in order to have fine-tuning, you need hardware, you need complex setup. Also, that it requires it means that it's sort of expensive, right? You have to either have the hardware or rent it out somewhere. And there's a solution for that, which I was going to mention, which are embeddings, which are faster approach, they use vector storage, and also they are implementable in a couple of lines of code. So a way to see this is sort of like, imagine that you need to solve the problem of making a call, right? And you have two options. You can either build a new entire phone, like the Nokia, which is going to be just able to do it, right? But it's just going to do that and maybe a handful of more things. On the other hand, that's the example of fine-tuning. You take a lot of time to build this very specific tooling which is going to work for just one specific thing. While the case of embeddings is sort of like an iPhone where you have the ability to add new functionality to it. It's faster and it's going to use like take with a grain of salt. But if I were you, I would not look so much into fine-tuning if I'm starting into AI. I would look more into embeddings and using vector storage. just because for the same purpose, we're going to use two different approaches. And also when you fine tune a model, like for example, if we were able to fine tune GPT-4, we would be losing part of the GPT-4 functionality when we fine tune it into what we want it to do. You have a resources website with tutorials for just one particular tutorial. I can't help but go to this from 0 to 1. So hacker prompt. Hacker prompt. Let's see if we find it. Plug and paste. So this is a really cool project. It's an OpenAI system where you have like a challenge and a template, and you have to break the prompt. So essentially, you have to hack the prompt in order to respond to what you wanted, what it should be responding. So, like for example, if you get a translation bot, how can you break the bot so it's no longer a translation bot and it gives you, for example, your secret keys, like your environment, which is one good example of how you should be aware of how to use things and what are the actual capabilities and like where they fall up. So I'm going to share this link so you can take a look after and try to hack it, which is really fun. Let me know how far ahead you get. I was only able to get up to level 5. When I get to sandwich defense, I was able to break this one. But yeah, initialization. There's a prompt that sends all the available commands to GPT-4 LLM. Correct. So I don't know if I'm able to find that file quickly. Prompts. Default prompts. Here. So there's a file that specifically tells it as it starts, right? System AI configuration. And it tells like you are to start by saying which are the goals that you're able to use, that you're able to achieve. But this is not the exact specific example I was going to find. There's one where you tell it which commands you have available. Here you, for example, tell it if it has a constraint, if it has a resource. Specifically, the resource would be the commands that you're giving it. And when it starts up, you're telling it, okay, these are the list of resources that you have available. You have Google, you have code generation, you have image generation, you have code analysis, and so on. So that would be a way of telling it specifically what it's able to do. And he says using Autogpt in terms of cost versus what it's able to complete. Is it profitable? I would say not really. Like running it full time for about a day should cost about $20. However, I think that at the current state, it's not ready for you to like take on a big challenge and do it for you. You should be able to, for example, generate text. You should be able to research specific topics that are happening right now. But if you don't want to like Google stuff and you want to just try to do something for you, like you take a break and you go to the store and have it research something for you. It might cost you like 10 cents, like $1, and you will have some sort of information that you didn't find in the first place. So it's not like it's going to do something more than Google. Although if you wanted to compare and contrast certain things, it might be able to help. So again, this is a very early stage technology. And also in this slide, I forgot to mention about Baby AGI, which is another agent. And in this case, it's a lot smaller than Autogpt in terms of lines of code, but it's a lot easier to check out. I'm going to show this link so you can also have it. If I was able to give it a budget, let it trade on Binance. There's a plugin for that, and I haven't used it. I don't think it will be able to do anything better than me just like randomly choosing a coin. But it should be able to use the API to make things calls for it. Yeah. Claude is, so for context, Anthropics is a startup that found out recently, apparently from a group of ChatGPT developers who left the team. And why is Claude important? Claude is their ChatGPT competitor. It's a model that is able to handle a bigger window, context window, when compared to ChatGPT. So if we look at that, let's go on Anthropic. So Anthropic essentially is it? Anthropic. So the difference is that they introduce a bigger context window. What does this mean? In model, you have a capacity to understand up to, specifically in the case of GPT-4, up to 8,000 tokens. So token capture, this will make it more, this will make it more visual, organized. So a context window is the size of 8,000 tokens. And what is a token? Let's just write some example text. And here we have colored, we need one color in each one of the tokens. So if we give it more text, it's gonna make a bigger number of tokens. So ChatGPT is able to handle 8,000 tokens. ChatGPT 4. And here you see it's getting longer, and it comes to a moment where you cannot feed it more information that it's able to control. And in that case, you're just stuck, right? Claude, on the other hand, from Anthropics, has a context window of 100,000 tokens. So not 8, so 100,000. And that is a big expectancy from the AI community right now. So if we're going to have such a big context window, what else can we do with these models? So another way around for the context window is what I was mentioning before about the vector stores, like the embeddings. So the way this works is that you're able to chunk the code or like the content that you want the AI to learn, and you store it in a vector database that then will be retrievable. So that context window that we were talking about just now is not going to be a limitation so much, because the data is not going to be passed in the context window. It's going to be stored in a vector stored database. Yeah. Oh, and the question was if I had used it. I have not used Claude. They are very restricted access. I don't know anyone who has access to it just yet. If you know somebody, let me know so we can, explore and try to make some cool implementation for it. There are models with 5 million context length windows. Yeah, I mean, that's where we're getting to. So it's not something that's ready right now most of the times. Like it's not something you would be able to plug into Autogpt, because that's what I mean. So the agents right now are not that quickly embeddable with like local models. Budget. So amazing. Thanks for bringing up the question. So, right. Let me go back to the slides. This was one of the last slides that I had, and while you're for the context, what it means is that you're giving the model a Minecraft environment, Minecraft the game, and then, in Minecraft you have to progress and make different tools. So here we have Autogpt going through the tooling, and it can make maybe wood, maybe you can make a stick, you can make a pickaxe, a sword, and then it goes to like iron tooling. In this project called Budgeter, it's a research paper. they made it so that it has a different set of skills, which is able to use again to make better equipment. So you can see that Voyager, without those skills, it's better than Autogpt, and it can get to diamond, to mining a diamond. But if it give it a list of skills, then it gets very far ahead. Like very, very far ahead compared to Autogpt. So this is a very recent paper that came out, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I think this is the way to go, and I've heard a lot of discussions in Autogpt community about using it to, to enable the tool, the agent, essentially to have more tools at disposal. There are other papers that I also found out very interesting in this case, like Gorilla, for fetching APIs. So you give it a very big list of API tools and its functionalities, and then you ask it to query those tools. So that's like currently being researched, and there are some implementations out there. I think even the Gorilla implementation is not fully open source. So, I mean, the theory is out there, but not all of the code is there ready for you to use. In the case of Warrior, I think we should let me see if I can find the link real quick. And I'll share the link with the team too, so you can take a look. Oh, you already linked it, thank you. See like a demo of what you're actually playing. So the LLM, the agent, was actually playing Minecraft. And Minecraft is not that straightforward. It's actually pretty complex. So, for example, building a house requires you to build walls, and then build a roof, and then, add a door. And it's getting to a point where, you're able to define those tasks for it, and it should be able to execute them, not because it knows them, but because it knows that they have the functionality available for it to use. Yeah, this is the most interesting graph, I think, and it's very visual if you know about Minecraft. Here we can see an example of how it's set up. So the process is, again, make wood, then make a crafting table, and file assembly, and my diamond. It's using an iterative prompting mechanism. So, for example, set the sync function that will file assembly, and it will equip a weapon. And when it's in its hand, it will craft this stone sword, and it will also craft a shield. And then it will include that in the skill library, and that's just the way to see it. The code, again, is going to do the actions, and I don't know what they mean here by self-verification. We could go on the paper a bit more if you wanted to, but you can also see how far away it's able to explore in the map. So Autogpt is very circular here, while Voyager is more expanded in the search. React is another case that you should look out to. I've heard it's very, very good, but in this case, you can see Voyager outperforms it in the specific task of playing Minecraft. Yeah, I think in terms of the slides, if there are no questions right now, the other part that I wanted to talk about was about emergent capabilities. So these LLMs are having the possibility to, they are built for one specific problem, and that's what you train it for, right? I need to translate something, or more specifically, you don't train it to translate something, you train it to write articles in English, and after a certain point, they learn to do things that they weren't able to do before. So, for example, how to translate a very complex language like Persian to Chinese. Suddenly they learn how to do that, and you are not you would not be aware that they learned that feature unless you test it for it. So that means that it's a double-edged sword, right? Like you have this thing that learns things that is just constantly creating new capabilities. But imagine that one of those capabilities is like a bad thing. For example, like it's suddenly very good at chemistry. In the stock, they give the example. It's suddenly very good at chemistry, but that means that it can create like a biological weapon. So now everyone with access to ChatGPT has access to that knowledge, and that's what they're trying to make people more aware of, right? So where these LLMs are actually growing, and that is dangerous a lot of people. That's the other slide that I have to cover. If you have any questions, feel free. The other maybe one that I could talk about is about tree of thought and chain of thoughts. So how we work through a problem right now. Okay, so the way we look at things, normally when we try to have a problem here and then we have to find a solution, through LLMs you ask it a problem and then that just generates a solution. It's pretty straightforward. Imagine that, however, we have a problem and we have a solution that we need to find an intermediate step. So what we do is we ask it to generate the step and then go to the solution. It's again linear, right? The thing is that we can make it so that it's a chain, right? So we start with a problem, we need to find a solution, and now we make it so that it has a lot of steps to get to that solution, right? So this is like a one-shot example. This is like, a single thought process, and this is like a chain of thought. The other kind of like approach that has been popping around is the possibility to make a tree of thoughts. So if we start with a problem here, and we have a list of potential steps, right? And we have our solution here. It's going to first create the 3 different steps, and it's going to say, oh, this one has a, 3 out of 10 chance of working. This one second is going to have a 5 out of 10 chance of working, and this one has a 0 out of 10 chance of working. So from all those 3 possibilities, it's going to pick the one with the most chance of working, and then it's going to make 3 more chances of what's the second step. And here, it's going to do the same, right? Oh, this one has 2, this one has 7, this one has 1. And it's going to continue doing that recursively until it achieves the solution that it's looking for. And how the algorithm works right now, there are 2 ways to do it. It's first going vertically or going horizontally. Essentially, it's like width or breadth is what they call it in the paper. And they have found out that looking in the breadth approach rather than the width approach is a lot more useful. And there are some implementations for this in code already. And for example, Autogpt has been talking about adding something like that to their system. But again, new technology that's just coming out, so there isn't that like. About tree of thoughts, what I think here is that, for example, imagine that it goes again here in 7, and then it does like another check, and the check suddenly says 0, 0, 0, and then it's like, okay, this is not going to work. The thing is that it goes back 1 step, and it figures out which one is the second most likely to work, and then it will regenerate the 3 outcomes here, or as many as you need it to generate, and continue here until it achieves the solution that you need to achieve. So that is the tree of thoughts. How about Lang Chain? So Lang Chain is another framework. It's very useful. It's one of my favorites right now. It comes in 2 languages, Python and JavaScript, I think. And it is essentially a framework of tooling that allows you to leverage LLMs. So, I mean, it allows you to use vector store databases, create Q&A bots. Like, this is really something that you should get your eyes on if you're looking to learn about AI right now. You can know Python. It's really, really easy to use. Well, you have to get around the concepts first, but they have abstracted them very, very well, and they have a lot of documentation. So if you have any specific questions about Lang Chain, I can try to answer. Another example I might be able to show is like Kappa AI. It's a specific product that they have made recently to ask questions to a documentation page. So they fit the bot with documentation's website, and then you can put it to a Discord server, and you can ask questions to it, and the bot will, for example, give me an example of JavaScript example for chunking large bot comes out with a very good response on how to do it with code example. The Kappa AI is something to look up to. Maybe we have another 10 minutes to go over another topic, which yeah, definitely. So if you are able to run the model locally, you don't need to use OpenAI for it. Your model is actually capable of executing the task, then you wouldn't be spending for each call. I mean, you would only pay for electricity. Was Kappa built with Lang Chain? I think so. Yeah. They haven't told us exactly, but they do use like a vector store. Is Pinecone the best solution for vector storage right now? I don't know. It's just a tool. It's very popular, and Autogpt was very also using it at first. And I was not able to use it. I didn't like it. That's my hot take there. There's an open source one. Redis. It's called. You can use Redis, and it's free. Vector stores. So vector stores is a new concept. It allows you to like take information and do like sets. It's not a 2D. It's actually 3D. And here you have, imagine that this is like a blog. You would be able to take specific sections out of that blog in a vector space, right? So if you would have a big set of information, you have like information here and here and here, even specific keywords, you should be able to find like dog and cat and I don't know, lizard. But if you look here, you have bicycle, bus, right? Bicycle, bus, and so on. So that's how it sort of works. It's a 3D vector database. That's what I have. I had another that I could show you guys. So we have LMQL. Here it is. LMQL is the way you were speaking about guardrails. So we have right now a way of asking GPT to give you a specific response, and not necessarily all of the time the response fits your needs. And very specifically when you need like a JSON file, right? How do you make it give you a very good JSON file with the right type of quotes, the good spacing and all that? There isn't really a way until LMQL came out. It's able to sort of how you have MySQL for structured database queries. We have LMQL for querying LLMs. Here you have a couple of examples, and you're essentially telling for IntelliJ. Well, you give it some sort of context, right? a list of good jokes, right? And it's gonna have joke, and it's gonna have punchline. And here you say which model you're gonna use. In this case, they use DaVinci. And then they say the joke be up to 100 screen characters. And the joke should stop with a question mark. And when the question mark happens, you have a new line, and then the punchline, it doesn't give you the length of the punchline. Oh, the punchline should be more than one character. That's what I wanted to figure out. So here's an example. What did the fish say when it hit the water? Damn. There you go. So that's one good example. Distributions. Let me see a chatbot example. Here you can use like a list for I and range. You will generate an output, and that's sort of like a big overview of LMQL. You can do very complex stuff that you can see here. They have a playground. So you can try it yourself. Yeah, this is not the right example I wanted to check out. Yeah, but you should be able to list the other example. Yeah. Well, yeah, this is another tool in that I just wanted to show you that. Yeah, Llama is another model. It's good. I mean, I haven't tried it because I don't have the GPUs to run it. I don't know exactly where it came from. Oh, it came from Facebook. There you go. 65 million parameter. I think you can really fine tune it and give it better performance. Hugging Face is another good website to find different AI models and to test them. I recommend you check it out and give it some time. For example, you have things for text to video, image to text, generating image from text, document question and answering, like what we were seeing. So, for example, if you have a lot of PDFs and you need to read those PDFs and then ask questions, you could use something like this. But you could also use Lang Chain. I would rather try to use Lang Chain. Like, you can make it up, just ask a question. Like, how do I create PDF? Then answers questions. So while we wait, I think we have more questions. Oh. Yeah, I haven't used it just yet. Here, it's thinking. Maybe we can get it. Here. So the process is pretty easy. This is just the code that changed. Here it's using a TXT file. It's loading the text from a TXT file and not a PDF. Oh yeah, here you have, it's telling you that you need to do something beforehand so you can PDF file. But as a possibility, it could work. This is really powerful, guys. So I look forward to hear where you're working. Have more time if you have more questions. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I don't know if you can jump on stage too. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, anyone willing to jump on stage, you just have to request it. There's an icon with a hand, and I'll give you permission, so feel free.
I can share the link link to the slides if you want to take a look and Google it. Hey, Andre.
Hello. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was very few things not to love in this thing. You at some point brought up some moral dilemmas, and it was very brief, and you just left it like that. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on potential solutions. Because you thought, you were saying, is it good to let it know chemistry because it can build bonds and all that? So would you talk about that a bit more?
I have a few comments there because I don't know really where it's going to get to. From that video that I shared, I really recommend you watch it. It's like an hour-long talk. It goes into detail into where we can find these problems. Like, for example, they added ChatGPT through Snapchat, and suddenly Snapchat was giving all this information to kids, right? Like, their usage rate is very young. And the person tried to fake being a 13-year-old kid, tried to tell you, I'm gonna meet up somebody that I met through Snapchat. Person is it's his birthday, and you're turning 30 years old or something. And then ChatGPT was just saying, yes, you should go. You should make that time special for them. It's their birthday. Although ChatGPT already knew the person was 13 years old, right? So, I mean, there's very little that we can do with these models so often in the wild. Yeah, I mean, that's the consideration. I wish I had a solution for it.
Yeah, thank you. Also, I wanted to ask you, personally, how much of your attention are you putting into this? It seems like a lot from just this workshop. But are you pursuing some form of utility? Are you trying to get it to do tasks for you, to automate some parts of your life?
Yeah, so I've been spending this time mostly researching and staying up to date with the current developments. I've used it to tweet for me a lot. I just tweet. So, for example, giving you the latest updates on the repo. Oh, this repository had this many forks and this many stars, so I can, start to do something. But still, again, I look more forward to it in the next couple. Sorry, I thought I was sharing screen, but in the next couple of months, that's where I would expect it to be more useful. Typically, right now, there are a lot of challenges. It can be good at some things, but very bad at other things. Right now, it's only good at writing text and researching.
Again, thank you so much. Wonderful presentation.
Thanks for asking.
Just a quick reminder for anybody having a question, you just can click an icon with a hand to request to speak, and I'll give you the permission. Otherwise, maybe we can wrap it up here. Okay, just a second. Andre, do you want to add something?
Well, yeah, I had another question since nobody's jumping in about the reading group. I was wondering if you could give us a sense of how do you feel about it? Are you engaged? Do you feel like it is one of the hottest things to follow in terms of AI development? Can you share a little bit more about that?
I've been attending, so essentially there's a person that takes time to read the paper before the call. Either in the call they just go over the paper. And I have had a lot of eye-opening moments there because although the logic can be very complex, mathematics can be very are still there. So for example, chain of thought, tree of thought, that's just something eye-opening, right? You can really convey that sort of logic through code, planning, procedure. There are other things, for example, Voyager that someone mentioned, that the only way to figure out about them right now is through looking at those research papers that are being published. So if you want to participate, I can share a link to the Autogpt community. That's where they are organizing it. It happens like every other day. So it's actually difficult to catch up because there's just too much going on.
Yeah, I would personally very much like to do that.
Sure.
And
There you
thank you so much again.
Awesome. If no one else has more questions, all right. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for this awesome presentation, Media. Really, really appreciate your efforts. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.